Hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
How are you?
I'm good. Doing much better. Me and
Yeah.
my fiance just recovered from COVID, so
Mm-hmm.
we're doing much better now.
And we had it like a couple weeks before you guys.
It's
So it
literally
was a
sweeping
mess.
through. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
disaster.
I did tell Ethan though it was kind of funny how our our little bestie friend group, like we now live 2 hours away, but we still got COVID all at the same time.
Yeah, it does
Even
feel
though
like
we
we gave it
lived
to each
by
other.
each other for years, like with COVID, and we never got it. And now that we don't live together, we still got it at the same time. I thought that was kind of
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, that's fate, honestly.
I know. So what's new? How you been?
There's not much new with
Yeah.
me. We're in like the throes of wedding planning,
Mm-hmm.
which is hectic and crazy,
October. I'm
but
so excited.
yeah, but it's fine. It's fun. But that's always like the new thing. It feels like there's
Yeah.
nothing crazy going on right now. It's just a matter of planning and talking to a bunch of different people and doing all the meetings with like photographers and caterers and stuff like that. So it's
Do
been
you
a
have a
lot,
lot of
but
that stuff like figured out though of like which photographers you're gonna use and which yeah.
yeah,
So you've made a lot of choices.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. It's we still have plenty to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, we're I think we're in a good place as far as
The big
planning
stuff
goes.
has been
Yeah,
decided, like venue and big stuff. That's okay.
yeah. How's yours going?
It's great since we're doing a destination wedding in Montana with just our tiny little family. We actually are pretty much like done planning everything. It's in, I guess, 6 months, June. But like we already have all of our travel stuff booked. And we have like a wedding planner that we're using because it's like a micro wedding. And we've already made like all the decisions about where we're gonna go and like the cake we're gonna have and like my little like flower bouquet and stuff like that. So we don't really have a lot more to do other than just show up, except for in a few weeks, I'm going wedding dress shopping and you're coming with me. And I'm so
Yes,
excited.
I'm very excited for that as well.
I know. I wasn't planning on like going to like an actual dress shop and like wedding dress shop and trying on all the dresses. I was going to just order something online. But when I went with you to get your dress, it was so much fun that I was like, okay, I think I want to do this too.
Yeah,
Because it was
yeah, I
just
don't
so
blame you.
fun. I
It's
know.
definitely fun. It's like a little bit stressful, but definitely worth doing, I think.
Yeah. Depends on I gotta mentally prepare myself before we go in. Like it's gonna have to be a moment of like, this is how it is. This is what I look like. Nothing matters other than I deserve to have a dress that I feel beautiful in. So we're not gonna stress about size numbers. We're not gonna stress about, oh, there's a little bit of fat there. We're gonna just, this makes me feel pretty. I'm getting married. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And truthfully, when I went, they didn't even show me the sizes. Like they asked me what my
They probably
regular,
know that that's
oh
not
yeah.
like
Well,
like
and
no one needs that.
no. And like they asked me my regular clothes size.
Mhm.
And then when I picked a dress and bought it, that was the first time I saw the size at all. And it was at least two or three sizes up. And
Yeah,
so I
you were
think
so
that,
skinny.
yeah, well, I think that it's like, it's a big surprise how
Yeah.
different the dress size is versus your regular size. And so I wonder if they're just hesitant already, like you don't necessarily want to know
Yeah.
what dress size you are, but also you're not going to tell us the right number because,
Right.
if I say that I'm a size 10 in pants, it's like, okay, well, that's not going to be your dress size, but thank you
Right.
for the information.
For the starting place. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because that's what mine asked too of like your normal pant size. And I was like, I have no idea. So I have like different pairs of jeans that have accumulated over time that probably range in like, a size 8 to like 12, which is a pretty whatever. And I was like, well, these all kind of fit in different like ways. Like it can get on my body. So I was like, I don't know. I literally wrote like 8 to 12
Yeah.
in the
I said
answer.
the same thing. I said the
And
same
they're
thing
like,
because they did it in an email with me back and forth, and they were like, what's your regular, sizing? And
Yeah.
it's like, you have to know, like, I don't wear anything on top that's tight.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
I would say that I buy like 2 sizes up most of the time.
Yeah,
So it's like I
same.
can fit into this size, but I comfortably wear this size. And yeah, same with pants. You buy those for like 3 years ago and they kind of stretch with you.
Exactly.
But like I'm not a size 8 anymore. Like I
Yeah.
can tell you that my jeans that I'm wearing are 8, but I don't.
Yeah.
That's
But
not
that
true.
doesn't mean anything. I don't even know why I said 8 to 12. I have 8 to 16 in my closet. I don't know where I got the
Yeah.
12 from, but the 16 ones are like, I got those to be like pretty oversized. Like I like them to be baggy. That's also a funny thing. I I was laughing the other day. I caught like people's obsession or whatever with having to comment that something like is oversized. Like
Yeah.
for Christmas, my sister, we got me and my mom and her matching sweatshirts from the show that we like. And she got like 2 larges and like an extra large. And she was like, well, Maddie, like I know that you really like oversized stuff. So I thought you could have the XL like because it's oversized and all that. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't, it's just
Yeah.
that's the size I want and that's the size that fits my body. You don't have to make it this big thing of it to be like oversized. Like I don't
Right.
know. I just thought that was funny. People's thing of like, well, I got this bigger size because I want it to be like an oversized fit. Da, da, da. It's like it's okay
Yeah.
if it's not. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I
That's
just
true.
thought it was funny. She was so overly like emphasizing that point, and I was like, it's fine. Like
Yeah. And I think part of that is like buying for somebody else.
yeah,
It's
that's
like,
always like a
yeah, like I bought you a 3XL, but like I don't think you're a 3XL.
yeah.
But like if you are, that's fine. Like I think that that's almost like an awkward, like
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
this is
because
what you would
people like the
want, and that should
fit
be
of
the
different
end of
things
it.
too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like some people actually buy clothes that do like fit them pretty
Mhm.
well, but like the huge white sweatshirt I have, it's like so oversized. I mean, it is actually, but I got it on Amazon. Like, I I love wearing sometimes things that like I can't even see the outline of my body. You
Mhm.
know, it's just
Mhm.
cloth for comfort. And I almost got you one because I love it. And I got like a 5 or 6 XL.
Mhm.
And then I was like, that seems weird. Yeah, I'll eat that. Because you're not, but it's like the point of it is that it like is swallowing you.
Mhm.
It just was, I don't know. There's just getting people's stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. It's so weird. There's so much
Yeah.
body stuff where I'm like, are they going to be, I don't know. It's complicated. But yeah, I said, my size 8 jeans, like they fit on my body,
Mhm.
but not necessarily in a comfortable way at all. But then I also like I wear jeans that are size like 14 and 16 that I have to wear a belt with, but I wear those more than the other ones. So to answer your question, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty much how I did.
Yeah. I'll come in and you
But
can just kind of take a look.
yeah,
And at that point,
let
don't
me know
tell
where
me
we're
what the
at.
size is, but
Yes.
just hand me a dress that you think is going to fit. Okay.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think it'll be interesting though, because they had like a couple questions about like what styles, you like and that sort of stuff. And I basically, like I explained, my wedding was kind of like a non-traditional vibe anyways. Like we're getting married in Glacier National Park on like the lakeshore. So it's like I'm open to trying on like super non-traditional stuff because they were like, what
Mhm.
kind of stuff do you want to try on? And I was like, the only thing I really don't like is the like ball gown vibe. Like I
Mhm.
would definitely want it to be more casual. But I literally wrote down like I'm willing to or I'm open to trying on like anything that's like weird or whatever. So it might be kind of fun. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That'll
kind of
be
going
fun
in
for
with like,
sure.
I'll look at whatever. Cause even you went in with like a pretty, like, this is what I want. And you liked other stuff that you didn't think you would and stuff you really thought you would. You're like, this is not it. So
Mhm.
it's definitely like until you try it on,
Yep.
for sure. But
Yeah, I completely agree. That's the same idea that I went in with was like I don't want anything tight on bottom, but other than that, just give
yeah,
me whatever.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see like the range and then see what
Hmm.
you actually end up liking because I think that was a
Yeah,
really surprising, I guess, experience for me
yeah.
was that I didn't expect that I was not going to pick the one that I went in like gung
This is
ho.
the one I
Like,
want. Yeah,
yeah,
like
I
I don't
already
even need to
know.
try it on. Like I want
Yeah.
that one. And then you were like, oh, I actually don't really like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
we'll
I'm
see.
excited. That's going to be
I'm
cool.
so excited. And that's in just like a couple weeks, actually 2 weeks from today. Have fun.
Hoorah. Yeah, I'm
I
excited.
know. Yeah. But today I wanted to talk to you about, because I'm pretty much exclusively on mom TikTok right now.
Okay.
Like pretty much completely. That's everyone I follow, and that's most of my For You page. And I've been seeing a lot of, like parents sharing content of their kids on TikTok and other social media. And I just think it's really interesting. I love watching it. Like I said, mom TikTok. I don't have kids, by the way. You know that, but I don't have any children. But I just am obsessed with mom TikTok and I love it. And I wanted to talk about and hear your thoughts about some of the controversy is, wait, what is it? Controversy.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, that about like sharing content of kids online and how people have kind of different opinions on that. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that. But first things first, I wanted to say huge red disclaimer. We are not mothers, neither of us are.
Right.
And parenting is fucking hard and confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're both kind of on the same page of like, if your child is clothed and fed, then most likely you're doing the best you can and you're doing a pretty amazing job.
Yeah.
So this is us chatting about something we're curious about. And this is a judgment-free zone. It's just us being curious and chatting. We're also we're self-aware. We're not important enough for anyone to actually care anyways. I just want to make it clear that this podcast is nothing about judging people or anything like that. It's literally us just chit-chatting. But yeah, if your baby's alive and they're clothed and fed, like you're great, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just us being silly. Nothing's that serious ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was looking at some stuff and I actually, my bachelor's degree, human development and family science, kind of came out when I was doing this, and I ended up like researching a little bit in a way of it was like going straight back to like writing a paper, like when I was preparing for this. It was kind of funny, but it was actually fun. I was like, oh, I wish I had this much fun in college, like doing research and stuff like this. But basically the main concerns I feel like people have with kids and social media, because it's obviously like a newer thing, because technology is like, all this is brand new. With posting stuff, like when we were kids and we're young, like there was no social media accounts for parents to post pictures and stuff on. So, but I feel like the main things people talk about, or like the main conversation about, is like consent, privacy, safety, and like long-term impacts of like when kids get older. But there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about that I thought were interesting that were kind of like random. But what's your immediate like reaction to this conversation? Like, do you have any strong opinions, or are you just kind of?
Yeah, no, I don't have super strong opinions. I think that back to your disclaimer, it's a judgment call about what's right for like the individual.
Yes, absolutely.
So on like a base level, I do not judge anybody, or like, I don't judge anybody anyway, but I don't look down on anybody for posting their kids online. I think that there are what I guess I would call tasteful ways to do it, with their safety and privacy in mind. And then I think that there are sometimes people, I couldn't even name a creator off the top of my head because I just don't engage with that type of content. But there are certainly people who, in my opinion, are not looking out for their kids, I guess. Because I think that one of the biggest things, if it was me, is this could come back to that child later. So my mother got Facebook when I was, I don't know, maybe late elementary school or middle school. So there's a lot of photos that I find like quote unquote embarrassing, but they're not inherently like bad. It's just kind of like, oh, I was an ugly kid in my opinion. So I hate that picture. but there's nothing inherently wrong with it, right? She wasn't
Sure.
posting temper tantrums or like putting my bad days or my bad attitude or whatever. She wasn't putting that stuff online for everyone to see. And so that kind of thing doesn't bother me. You know, I have pictures where I'm like dressed so goofy, or like I was going through puberty and my face is just like, oh God.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a responsible way. And so there are some people who, like, I know don't post their kids' faces or they don't post their kids' names, which I think that's fair enough. And then there are some people who, like I was saying, on the complete opposite end of that, are like posting temper tantrums and stuff like that. And there's some that do it for educational purposes. And they're like, here's how I talk my kid down from like a bad situation. And I get that. I just think from my perspective, if I was the child, I wouldn't have an issue with my face being out there. You know, my mom's not an influencer. My mom is just a regular mom with like 100 Facebook friends. So I personally don't have an issue with my name being out there or certain identifying information. Like, she didn't necessarily post where I went to school, but if you really wanted to know, you could figure it
You could
out
find
based
out.
on,
Yeah.
based on like my band t-shirt or whatever. And so I don't think that that's a huge problem. And if I was that child and, you know, my mom was on TikTok from the day I was born, I don't think that it would necessarily bother me if she was, my dad doesn't use social media. This is why I'm talking about my mom, but I don't think that it would bother me a whole lot if she was posting baby pictures or videos of me or 2-year-old videos and pictures of me. But I think putting my like bad days online would really bother me.
Yeah.
And then I know that there's a safety concern as well, not just in the sense of like knowing where a kid goes to school or like what city they live in, but one thing, I wish I could remember the creator off the top of my head, but I saw a YouTube video a while ago about like MAPS, which stands for minor attracted people. And that's what really
We've
scares
talked about
me.
this before. Yeah.
Yes, that's what really scares me as somebody who wants to be a parent at some point in the relatively near future. That scares me, where it's like, I don't know what people are doing with my kids' content, and that feels really weird. But in the same token, I want to share my kid with my family, and I don't talk to all my family all the time. And so a lot of that would probably be on social media.
Right.
So I think that that is like what scares me the most, is people with ill intentions having access to that information about my child or those photos of my child. So yeah, mixed opinions. I guess I don't have a super strong opinion, but I understand that everyone kind of has to make that judgment call. But I'm interested to see what you have to say and like what data says about this.
Yeah. I don't have like tons and tons of data, but one thing that you were just talking about with, regarding safety that I found so interesting. I read this and I was like, what in the world? And all this will link the articles in like our thing so you can see where I'm getting all this. But so something I found from an article from the university was it puts children at increased risk for identity theft. According to 2018, reported by Barclays Financial Services, sharenting, which is what we're talking about, sharing your kids on social media, will account for 2/3 of online identity theft and produce 7.4 million incidences per year of identity theft by the year 2030. And I was like, what in the world? Like, what do you mean? It says much of the basic information needed to commit identity fraud is all too easy to access for thieves to obtain. So for example, if a father just posts a picture of his daughter at home on her birthday, that child's name, date of birth, and address can be stolen. So I thought that was like kind of fascinating from a legal thing. Like, you don't really think about how people can like really take advantage of things that you put out there.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's really surprising, especially because I think that people do that without even thinking.
Exactly. I've done that. Like, I'm sure with just things I've posted about myself, you could easily find out
Yeah.
Probably where I live, where I went to school.
Hmm.
If you really wanted to. I also don't post on social media like that much, but I'm sure most people, like people who post a ton, like you could easily find all that stuff out.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and like on a lot of social media accounts, your birthday is public.
exactly.
And so that's
Yeah.
not even
And
that's not
people
even
use
kids necessarily. That's
mhm,
everybody. Yeah,
everybody, and people use first and last names without even thinking about it, like I do.
I do too.
Um, but another thing I thought was interesting when you're talking about what people are going to do with the content sort of thing is there's a popular family that influences like does that content, and I saw someone talking about on TikTok, they have a couple of their children have many like fan accounts on Instagram
Mm,
of like, you know how that's a thing, like, you know,
hmm.
Ariana Grande, like people love her
Yeah,
and, you know, there's fan accounts of her. But and, you know, that's not necessarily like people being predatory. It could be people who are like kids who are legitimately fans of them. But I know if I was a parent, the idea of people making fan accounts and like finding pictures and posting their own photos and captions of my kid is so creepy, and I would hate
yeah,
that. So that's another thing is like people might get like feel like they're attached or obsessed with your kid to the point where if you saw them in public they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're whatever,
yeah,
and it's like, I'm a 5-year-old girl, like
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's
so
that what are they, like a parasocial relationship where
yeah,
you
you know
feel
them
like
but
you
they
really
don't know
know.
you.
Yeah, yeah. And so that is scary when it comes to kids, thinking that this, like, you know, this family and they almost feel like your next door neighbors, and then it's like,
Yes,
no, no, they have no idea who you
not at
are.
all, yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as some of the safety stuff, but what I find most interesting about this topic is like consent and privacy.
Hmm.
So obviously, you know, babies and children can't consent to what's being posted because they're babies. And the main thing is just that overall, like your child doesn't get a say in what's being posted of them.
Hmm.
But an article that I was reading from Michigan State University, not that you went there,
Hmm.
but your family's in Michigan,
Uh-huh.
from their early childhood development extension program, one of their pieces. Um, says we give children choices about all sorts of things to empower and protect children. We teach them to take ownership of their bodies by letting them choose if they want to kiss or hug relatives and teaching body safety. We teach them to respect privacy, like knocking on doors before you enter a room. However, when we post them without their consent, we are not respecting their self-ownership, privacy, or opinions. So I personally am really big on the idea of a kid does not have to hug and kiss relatives to make them happy. A kid is
Hmm.
personally allowed to have privacy in their room and not, you know, they're people.
Yeah.
Kids are not just become people one day. Like there's still
Right.
people who deserve respect and privacy, in my opinion. So I did think that was kind of interesting because I know when I have kids, that's a huge thing that I want to instill is you have a right to say no to anything you don't want to do. You know, you have self-ownership of your body, all that kind of stuff. So I think that plays in kind of interesting to trying to instill all those values, but also being like, yeah, but there's also all this content of you online that like you didn't even know about.
Yeah. And I think that
So
that is kind of a hairy gray area, in my
yeah.
opinion, um, because that's completely correct. Like children cannot consent
Mm,
to having their photos online. Um, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this is like a problematic hot take, but I just don't necessarily think that children, I feel like this could be taken out of context, but like children don't necessarily have to consent to everything that's happening to them because they're children.
sure. Yes. If your
And so
kid's about
like,
to run in the middle of the street,
yeah,
like I don't care if
yeah,
you're, you know what I mean, or if they're
yeah. Well,
not
and
eating or something.
like medical intervention, like
Sure,
you get to make that call for them. And so even if they're like, I don't know, like, no, I don't want to get a shot or something,
sure.
then it's like, well, no, I'm choosing for you because you don't
Yeah.
understand the bigger implications of this. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Like, so then when it comes to stuff like that, it's tricky. I think that it's just tricky because as a parent, I'm sure that you feel some sense of ownership, for lack of a better
Sure.
word, but that's
I
not
mean, yeah,
necessarily
it
what I
is your
mean.
kid. You have a right to, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like, I want to take pictures of you and share them because I'm so proud of you.
Hmm.
And so I'm sure that a lot of that oversharing comes from a good place, a
For
place
sure.
of being proud or being excited or whatever. Um, and yeah, I think that that's a balancing act because certainly I have a much better sense of humor now about the embarrassing photos that my mom has posted online.
Hmm.
Because I am, what, 10, 15 years removed from those things.
Right.
And at this point, it's like, I'm confident in myself. I'm fine. I don't care what I looked like when I was 12.
Hmm.
It's funny, right? Those things are funny now. So I don't know. But then is that like not really an ethical choice? Like, should she have taken the photo, which still I didn't technically consent to, but like taken the photo, waited until I was older to post it? I don't know.
Hmm.
I think that sometimes there are expectations and everybody has an opinion. And as parents, especially moms, but as parents, you just cannot meet all of those expectations.
Absolutely.
And maybe there's a different conversation to be had here about like like a true influencer who has
Hmm.
millions of followers and thousands of views on everything versus like the average mom or
With
dad.
100 Facebook friends. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I really don't have an issue with like, well, your kids can't consent to you putting their picture on Facebook, but it's
Yeah.
their 5th birthday. And even though that's a safety concern,
Absolutely.
like it's their 5th birthday and we did a cute party and I'm just going to post it because I'm happy for them or whatever. They start school today, like,
Hmm.
yay, I'm happy. And I don't really see an issue with that. But I think that it's maybe about knowing your social like reach and knowing what level of safety, like, or yeah, I guess what is like a concern,
Right.
because I would not post my address, my exact street address, but like my place of work is public information. And like you can easily probably deduce that I don't live very far from my work. And so then it's
Sure.
kind of like, well, my area. So if I had kids, you could guess what schools they go to.
Exactly.
But is that a real danger given my small social sphere versus somebody who is very public and very well known? What is their reach and what level of information becomes a safety concern because they're so much more well known?
Yeah. And it is just kind of a like almost looking into things a lot because at the end of the day, you're not with your kid all the time when they're at school or they're out in the world and like there's bad people and people, you know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
you can protect every single little tiny thing of their life.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's yeah, interesting to think about the difference and like where you would draw the line of having an Instagram or TikTok account or whatever that revolves around your family or your kids that has thousands or whatever of followers versus yeah, when you have like when one of us like if I when I have a kid, I'm definitely gonna like post pictures on Facebook of like their birthday, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like at what point is it different? I definitely feel like there's also kind of a difference between infants and like kids because babies like you are not really as like recognizable when they're older.
Mm-hmm.
um and I don't feel like there's as much to be embarrassed about when you're a baby if that makes
Sure.
sense, like you're
Yeah.
just a baby.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't really do much to embarrass yourself compared to like if you're talking and able to say something that you wouldn't want people to necessarily hear that you've
Yeah.
said that and that kind of stuff. So I feel like there's kind of a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
um and yeah, I think we're kind of on the same page as far as there's a major difference between posting meltdowns, tantrums, screaming fits versus like a fun little game you're playing or a cute
Mm-hmm.
little thing that they said. Like there's definitely some things that should be completely private. In my opinion, I think sometimes that blurred line can be the most detrimental is like, I don't personally see why you would need to post anything of your child having like a complete hysterical meltdown
Right.
online, because that I just know, me personally, that is something I would be really embarrassed by. I'm not
Yeah.
embarrassed by a cute little thing, but I don't want anyone to see that. So that's kind
Yeah.
of like a just think about it before you post it kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some people do that to show like the
Realness.
ugly side. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like, because everybody talks about how, like, Instagram, for example, like Instagram is the highlight reel of somebody's
Hmm.
life. Like, that's not their day-to-day living. Don't compare yourself to that, because that's not real. And
Yeah.
so then I think that people want to counter that and be like, yeah, my kid is so cute and so well behaved, but also look, like, no, they're not all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that I have a different opinion when, like, I've seen moms who, I am also on mom TikTok, but I've seen moms who will maybe like get out of the house and sit in their car or something, and then they will talk themselves to the camera and be like,
Hmm.
my kid is driving me nuts today,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go like to Target or like treat myself, whatever. And so it's not necessarily like, here's my kid being an asshole.
Hmm.
It's more of just like, here's the real side of parenting. I'm super stressed. My kid's being kind of a butthead. Like, this is real life. And so
Yeah.
I'm removing myself from that situation, but I'm not necessarily going to broadcast exactly what happened or
Right.
the actual video of that happening, which also, like, I think I've been thinking about this a lot because this is goofy, but we pretty much treat our dog like a child.
Oh yeah, same.
And
We both have, our dogs are our babies right now.
yes,
Yeah.
and I've been thinking about how she has a phone in her face all the time
Hmm.
because I'm always taking pictures of her. I literally have
Mostly
like,
sitting to me.
yeah, I have like an ungodly amount of photos of her,
Hmm.
but she kind of has a phone in her face all the time. And to some extent, I'm like, it's a dog. It doesn't really matter. But I worry about that with kids, where it's like, you like grow up with like behind a phone screen, like you don't get to look your parents in the eye, I guess, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Um, and the point of that is, when I was having, a full-fledged meltdown, my mom was right there and she was like,
Yeah.
hey, like, let's figure this out. But I think that you lose some of that when you are recording it, and you as a parent know that you need to be on your best behavior, because that's not real. Because
Hmm.
sometimes my mom would sit on the floor with me and she would, relax me. And other times my mom was like, stop, I need you to stop. Like,
Yeah.
I'm at my wit's end and she's a
You're
human
driving me
being.
crazy. Yeah.
Yes, like, she was a good mom. It's not, she is a good mom. It's not like that. It's just real. At some point it's like, I can't do this gentle parenting thing anymore. Like, I need you to just
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah. That's actually
And
something I wanted to mention too. I love gentle parenting
yeah,
content. Like that's what a lot of my
yeah,
TikTok is. I like watching a lot of that kind of stuff. And it's like you were saying, there are many like teachable stuff you can do without videotaping, but I also love watching, because I feel like it's when you're really looking at exact situations of like a toddler refusing this or saying this exact thing, it is really helpful to actually see like that exact conversation, because trying to like explain a situation with a toddler is
mm-hmm,
kind of hard,
yeah,
and the way that they're maybe physically reacting or whatever.
yeah,
um, but I do think there's something to be said about how there's a big difference between watching that and, yeah, like reading a textbook about like, this is how you would respond to
yeah,
this. Like
that's
reading
true.
that stuff, it's hard to apply that rather than seeing it.
Yeah,
I just
that's
know
true.
I watch a lot of like actual moments that happened, and I
Mhm.
find them to be so enlightening.
I do think it's helpful. I just think, in terms of like consent from the child's perspective, you get to pick, like, I'm feeling really calm and I think I'm going to handle this
Sure.
well, so I'm going to record it.
I'm okay with people seeing the
Versus,
way that I act in
yes,
this clip. Yeah.
versus your child is having a hard time, and they maybe in other situations when you didn't handle it as well, they actually calmed down better
Sure.
and they handled it better. But this time you get to choose, and you get to like make the consent call about, I'm feeling good, I have enough patience to handle this right now.
Right.
And so then you record it, and regardless of how they are feeling about that situation, they get recorded.
They
And
just
I think
don't
that
get a
maybe,
say overall. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that maybe that's my problem, where it's almost like if my husband walked in and was like, she's doing a really good job, like this is going well, and recorded it, and neither of us, me or the child, knew that we were being recorded, like, I don't know, I feel like there's a
That
difference
seems like more
in,
fair.
yeah, I feel like there's
Yeah.
a difference in, I'm choosing this because I'm going to do a good job.
Candid moments rather than like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm about to perform, turn
Right.
it up. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that kind of goes into more of like long-term impacts of it, of like what you're saying of not getting a say in like how you're viewed in that situation and having it be exposed when you're older. Because I mean, basically, I mean, it kind of can just come down to like after growing up, you might just be like, you know, embarrassed and angry at your parents because of like how everything we were saying earlier. And yeah, just being angry at your parents. And then that becomes a whole thing of like, are you allowed to be mad at your parent for doing something when you're taught? I don't know. That's kind of, I mean, of course you are, but in
Yeah.
that, I'm not explaining myself well. Like, is that something you're like, how do you handle that conflict that
Right.
you had? Like, do they just apologize? Like, you can't, because the internet
Right.
is permanent, obviously, like you can't
You can't really
get
take
rid
it
of it. So
back.
that's how
Yeah.
I feel like that would create a difficult situation to navigate
Mhm.
when you're older of like, well, what do we do? And with some of the kids who like their following with their parents is huge. It's like known names, you know, forever. When someone, you know, when you're getting a job, anything, when you Google that person's name, it's gonna be, oh, they were all over the internet when they were a kid. And I just look them up and it's, oh, here's a video of them,
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't know. I just feel like that's weird. And they can never, that kid can never like take that back and not allow people to see them that way. And like, because you know, we
Mhm.
always growing up get preached, I guess, about be careful what you post online, like it can come back to you. But at that point, there's content of you out there that you didn't choose to have out there.
Right.
And I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it was, but I was reading something and it just had the short phrase of if someone is when they're growing up shared. And there was something about
Mhm.
that that just felt kind of icky to me. Just the
Yeah.
concept of that person is growing up shared by everyone and everyone
Publicly.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, there's the, for some reason that phrasing stuck out to me. I was like, ew.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And kind of a tangential thought, but um something that I don't know what you said that sparked this, but a lot of times with, I know that there's like a controversy about influencers kids not being protected in the same way that like a child actor is protected.
Mhm.
And so like for working hours and pay and stuff like that, like I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I do know that when children are paid for their work,
There's legal regulations
yeah, and the
on a
parents have
set. Yeah.
to, yeah, and the parents, when they get the money, because they don't give money to a, 5-year-old, but
Yeah.
the parents get that money and then they are like legally obligated to set however much percent aside for that
Mhm.
children or child when they get older. And again, like I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but they have to put 50% aside so that that child has the rights to that money. And
Mhm.
yes, the parents can use that money now and hopefully use it for the child, but the influencers children don't have that, and they're not protected legally in the same way. And so if a child on set has like a breakdown, then it's like, okay, you're done for the day. Like nobody's filming this or anything, but like you did just have a breakdown in front of this entire crew, but like you're done. You need to go home. Like just bring it back fresh tomorrow. But then kids of influencers, they get recorded in those moments, and then those get posted, and then the parents make money from that. And
they're in
then,
their bedroom. There's not a
yes,
separation of like,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. And it almost incentivizes parents to capture those moments, because to some extent, like, so few people are willing to post that content. And so then when somebody does, it's like a big deal, or it's really captivating, because you're like, oh my God, like, how did you handle this? How did you deal with your toddler screaming? This is crazy. So it almost like incentivizes parents to continue to do that,
Sure.
regardless of the best
To
interest
like
of the
catch
child.
like crazy content.
Yeah.
Rather than, yeah, their lines that they're reading. You're not really controlling, as compared to a child actor. Like you're not really controlling, this is what they're going to say, and that's just what's going to happen. It's not like we're going to do this to change the situation, and this is going to go here. Like it's planned of like, this is all
Right.
that's going to be filmed of them doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, money is a big thing too. Like how, like you were saying with, in an acting situation or professional setting of anything like that, there's rules, there's standards, there's like lawyers. I'm pretty sure with a lot of, like especially bigger production, if there's kids on set, they even have to have like child psychologists and, you know, of some kind of thing. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty regulated. So it is different. I mean, even then, I still personally kind of have like child actors being super famous in that sense rubs me the wrong way too. Like it's
Yeah.
not necessarily saying that like, oh, that's fine or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's still kind of gross too in a lot of ways of just monetizing and exploiting kids. But I do think there is something to be said about when we're talking about smaller, but like actual influencers. There's people who, you know, might be in not a great situation, and by making content about their kids, they're able to get brand deals where they get sent free stuff and they can make money, and they can like provide much more for their kids than they would have been able to with other, you know, otherwise. And some people, even when they are become more successful influencers, they could even not work another job and spend a lot more time with their kids, and, you know, ultimately maybe provide a much better parenting experience for them by sharing content of them. So then, you know, does that change it too, or make it like worth it? If when you get
Right.
older, it's like, okay, I didn't, you know, I had all this content of me, but like we literally had so much, and my mom's life was so much easier because we were able to.
Yeah.
Because in that's a situation too where I feel like the intentions are completely different, in terms of like, I'm doing this because I don't know. It just depends a lot on the person. There's some content creators where it's like, ew, why are you posting that?
Yeah.
Like, why or whatever. And then there's some that will come straight up say like things about they just had a meltdown. Like, I'm, you know, I'm not going to show that, but like, this is what happened. Like we were saying, you can explain situations too. But I just I don't know. There's a lot of people that I follow on like TikTok and stuff that have content with their kids, and it feels way different than like big family vlog channels on YouTube that have clickbait titles about their kids rather than just little like, hi, I don't know. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just feels different. There's not like, it's obviously not black and white. There's not like, it's not okay at all, and
Right.
this is okay. Like it just really depends on the situation. It seems like what their motivations are. Also, I hate the term mommy bloggers, but like that's in some of the stuff that I was reading. So when I've said that, I hate that term, but it's not my
Yeah.
term. I'm just reading exactly what
Okay.
it says. But it can also serve as like a modern day, you know, baby book and sharing stuff with friends and family. Like so many, I don't know, memories to be able to look at back at that stuff. But I want to talk more about some of the like benefits, I guess, of sharing stuff and why people do it, and like not just all the bad reasons. Is there was so much stuff I was reading and about how providing posting content and like making yourself a figure online to with other people is provide so much community for people. There's a lot of people, you know, when you talk about needing to have a tribe and similar minded people with your kids. For some people, the only way to do that is being online and putting yourself out there and doing that stuff, because there's, even we talk about, I said, I like watching gentle parenting content. There's probably tons of people who their people in their actual life would be like, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't, but by being a part of something like that online, you're able to get a completely different experience and have this whole group of people. So I feel like that is a huge, I don't know how you could argue with that not being a good thing or an okay thing for women. I mean, any parents, but mothers especially, to have a community of people and share the joys of their kids with each other, and have that relation of, this is hard, I'm dealing with this. Oh my gosh, me too. You're not alone. I can imagine that can be kind of life-changing if you don't have the best support system in your real life.
Yeah.
And something I did want to read, one of the quotes that I found, that I like this one. Again, this is mommy blogging. It's not my words. Through candid stories and unfiltered pictures, mommy blogging duly offers a refreshing escape from curated social media and enforces the idea that being a mom is messy and that's okay. While the internet can often be judgmental, this form of sharenting provides a feeling of camaraderie among women as they share similar experiences, backed by the feelings of mutual support. Women have even used their platforms to promote change outside of the sphere. Examples include like exposing corrupt companies and criticizing offensive commercials. By posting about parenthood, many women discover the power of their own authentic voice. So that pretty much just goes back to what you were saying about, there is a space of being a content creator and sharing things, that provides a lens of reality, like not Instagram highlight reels, like this is how it actually is. But I also really like the point of, there can be being able to share corrupt companies, or like, this product is actually really unsafe for this reason. Like, posting about that stuff online can help people a lot too. I don't know. I also see a lot of content from people who are like physical therapists or occupational therapists that show stuff with, real babies, but tips on like, if you have them in this position, that's good for tummy time and can help them promote, grow, strengthen their joints in like this way. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that you actually do show that can be helpful and educational, but I don't know. I just threw a lot out without you responding at all. These are like 10 things.
No, yeah, I think there's definitely benefits to it. And I think that sense of community is important. I think that I think it's tough because
yeah, that's how I feel about this whole thing.
Yeah, as much as there is a sense of community, I have never seen a more vicious comment section than in a mother's video with her child.
Sure.
Because everybody has an opinion and everybody thinks that their opinion is like factual and not recognizing that it is just an opinion. And so that's the same kind of bugaboo that I have with talking about products that are actually unsafe. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Of course, if it helps anybody, then it's a good thing. But I feel like almost any product for children, especially for infants, you can argue that anything is unsafe. And so it's like, this pillow for leaving them, sleeping in this position, that's unsafe. That's going to like kill your kid. It's going to be horrible. But also just leaving them with no pillow is also horrible. And it's like super unsafe. You have to have this, you have to have this other product. And then somebody else says that that's not okay. So
that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that I saw lately was, oh my gosh, amber necklaces or something. And I think it's a teething thing.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's supposed to be like a natural thing. And those turned out to like be actually pretty unsafe. And
like poisoning kind of or something.
Yeah. And I think like maybe they were breaking or choking. Yeah. And so I do think it's important to share, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think unless you have some kind of personal story with it, or there's like an actual recall or something that is like, this actually is very dangerous, I'm sure that it would be so hard to be in the public eye to really any extent and showing your kids in their natural habitat, because you show a kid with a toy and then everybody in the comments has something to say, but then people are arguing and half the people in the comments are like, shut up, it's fine. Because you see that with dogs too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, dogs are not children, I'm aware, but that is the closest thing that I have
We're not
to a
mothers,
child.
so it's what we can compare it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people talking about, don't ever let your dog in the bed, don't ever let your dog on the furniture, you should eat before your dog. If your dog tugs on its leash on a walk, then like you're a bad owner. And it's like, oh my God.
I literally don't follow a single thing you just said. I'm the complete opposite of everything you just said.
No, I am the complete opposite too. But it's frustrating because it's like, well, I don't know, everybody's situation is different. And
my dog is fed, they're alive, they were a stray,
exactly.
now they're in a home, so like I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, we are at a net positive here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I feel a lot with my dog, is like, well, she was already somewhere between 3 and 4. We don't have an exact age, but she was 3 or 4 when we got her, and she was like criminally under socialized. She was abused.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's not very nice, but she's very sweet to us and the people that she trusts. She's so sweet with. But
she's sweet to me. She loves me.
But she's really reactive around other dogs because she came from a home where there were big dogs and they were not like looking out for her. And so she got attacked by big dogs all the time. And she came from, all these bad situations. And so then it makes me feel like I'm an irresponsible owner, but truthfully, I'm not. She could be more socialized. She could be nicer. Absolutely. We're always working on that. But I'm sure that that's how it feels as a parent, to like 100 times more.
Times 100, yeah.
But where it's like, your child is throwing a temper tantrum, like that means that you're a bad mom.
Yeah.
And then there's the other people who are talking about, no, like, she's not a bad mom. This is super helpful because my kid does the same thing. And I love seeing, a different approach to solving it, because what everybody suggests doesn't work for me and my kid. So this alternative idea is helpful. So I don't know.
Well, that also kind of brings in the question of like unsolicited advice almost. Like, if you are posting, is it fair to post something and then like actually get upset if someone comments there? You know what I mean? I mean, that's just posting anything on social media. Like, are you inviting yourself for that? But this is kind of a tangent, but this is one of my biggest pet peeves ever. And I think you probably know this is, I would not know if it's a pet peeve. Something I hate is people giving unsolicited advice, especially in I did it this way, so it's going to work best for you if you do it this way, or I tried that and it didn't work well, so like you shouldn't do that. And I feel like that's a big thing in parenting, even though each kid is so different, so different. Even even me and my sister, my sister's 3 years older than me. My mom has told me we were parented in like very different ways in some aspects, because like I reacted well to a lot of things she didn't, and vice versa. So to just act like, okay, well, when I do this, when I say this like that, my kid doesn't do that, so blah 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 blah, like, I don't know. I think that's another good thing about sharing your experiences, is people can see a lot of different ways to do something and like try different things, because kids respond to different things. But I hate this works for me. Or with timing, we could talk about this for hours, but well, I got married and had a kid at this time and that was good for us, so like you're way too young to be doing that, because we didn't do it until we were 30 and you're only 24, so that's crazy for you to do that, or whatever. It's like, I feel like when people have kids, especially when they're grown up, not everyone, but there's a lot of people who then feel entitled to like well, I can comment on how everybody's done everything because I
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
And that bothers me a lot.
Yeah, definitely. That reminds me of something I was going to say earlier.
I love your sweater, by
One,
the way. That is so cute.
oh, thank you. One of those benefits, one like huge benefit to sharing online, sharing your kids online, is, in my opinion, like the social change and the speed at which that happens. Because I feel like parenting was relatively, I don't know, obviously, but seems like a lot of parenting philosophies were relatively stagnant for many years.
It's just kind of
And
isolating.
yeah,
Like when you're not, yeah.
yeah. And all of the things about, what do you do when your kid is throwing a tantrum? Like for my mom, when my mom was growing up, and also for me, like if I was having a moment, and same with my mom, if she was having a moment, we were a lot more likely to be put by yourself and go sit in a room or in the corner or whatever and think about this and regulate your emotions and figure it out and then come talk to me. So the timeout strategy.
Sure.
Versus now, that was the same for like what, 30 years. And now we're moving into this like era, I guess, where parents are talking to their kids like people. And I think that that's like a new idea that almost feels like revolutionary, where it's like we just
Oh, yeah.
assumed that kids didn't really have the capacity to like regulate their emotions or talk to you about what they're feeling or why.
Be able to
And
identify their own emotions
yeah.
even.
And now that I think as like a generational group, we are more emotionally intelligent than the people that came before us. And I think that our age group and older, obviously, are instilling those kinds of values and that type of learning into their kids and putting an emphasis on like, just be a good person. Like you can't hit your sister, not because I'm going to yell at you. Like that's not the problem. The problem is you've hurt her. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why those things happen. And I think that that's really important. And I think that that's really valuable.
Yeah.
And so like in creating that sense of community, I think that the social change and like the type of education that we're giving our children in the home is changing really rapidly.
Right.
And in my opinion, for the most part, for the better. I think that we're going to make much more well-rounded kids or people, adults who are a lot more empathetic and a lot more in touch with their own feelings.
Just emotionally intelligent.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are really focused on breaking generational like trauma right now. And I think that that's really important because that's definitely something that impacted my family. Like it comes down, you can see it's come down like 3 or 4 generations. And I think that the fact that we're moving away from that and we're talking about what a big issue that is, I think that that's a really good thing, but that couldn't have come without some people who
being
are
able
willing
to share those platforms. Yeah. Well, because that's the thing too, like you're saying, if or if even if you don't have social media now, or back when you didn't have access to information like that, pretty much the only things as a new mother, the only thing that you'd be exposed to would be maybe some dated like text, books explaining, and the people around you, and the way you were parented. So that's why, when you talk about things being stagnant, it's just the same, you know what I mean? That's what happened to you, and that's what your sister does with her kids. So like that's obviously what you're going to do. And by being able to discover different types of parenting or different ways to do things, like I don't even have kids, and I already, with being on Mom Talk so much, I have so many things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought about that or whatever, but like I would love to start doing that even when they're an infant, to instill these values. Or I don't know, I just feel like I have been enlightened with so much information about things I want to do that I've never, like explaining to my parents or in-laws or something, they would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And that can almost like, I don't know if I want to use the term gaslight because it's like intentionally, but that can almost make you like, oh my gosh, I'm crazy for wanting
Yeah.
to not let my kid do this or to let
Yep.
my kid do this. Everyone around me thinks that's crazy. But on my social media account, I watch there's thousands of people who do that and they all support each other with doing it.
Yep.
So it's like it can give you so much confidence
Yeah.
of like I have these people backing me up almost, or like I have people who can relate to it rather than only being able to be influenced or interact with the people directly around you. I think can make a
Yeah.
huge difference with just your confidence even of being like
Mhm.
this is okay and this is normal for me to want to do this or not to want to do this,
Yeah.
because I'm not the only one who feels this way. Whereas you
Mhm.
might feel like, what is wrong with me? If the only people
Right.
you're talking about mothering with is your in-laws and your mom and your
Right.
grandma, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think that can bring a lot of, I know for me, because I'm someone too who has a lot of trouble with being like, okay, I feel this way, so that's enough for me to
Mhm.
act on it.
Mhm.
Like not like needing approval or whatever. So I know, which, that's its own whatever, we're working on it kind of thing.
For sure.
But I believe I will benefit so much from being able to see from an online community like, oh, I'm not the only one who does this way.
Mhm.
I'm not the only one who thinks this way or um, is choosing to do this with my child. So I don't really give a fuck what the people around me are saying because I see that there's a lot of people like me who are doing the same thing. So I feel like
Mhm.
that can be insanely beneficial in terms of being able to be exposed of different ways that people are doing things and find a community where you might not have one. Because I think that's huge on being a mother is having some kind of community.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
complicated, but
Yeah. And there's no like end all be able answer to any of
no,
it.
it's just like that's a conversation about it. That's it. There's no
Yeah. Right.
it's good. But so when are you gonna have a baby? This is all me and Allie talking about all the time is when we're gonna have kids. That's why
I don't
that's
know.
why we're basically doing a whole episode on talking about parenting stuff because
Yeah.
that's all we think about.
Yeah. I don't know. After the wedding, but probably soon after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, I guess you personally then, you talked about obviously like with family and friends and stuff posting stuff of your kids, but would you like try to or have some kind of like following and then post your kid? You know what I mean? Would you make TikToks with your kid or you just kind of have to see,
Yeah, I think I'll
like
have to
just putting
see.
yourself in the position of like the mom talk, like the mom TikTok that you watch? Like, would
Yeah,
you post stuff like that too?
right. Yeah, have this whole conversation and then not talk about yourself. Um, I think, I don't know. I think I would be open to posting those kinds of things. I really don't post on social media. I think
Yeah, you don't.
the last time I did was when I graduated college. And then before that, it was like 3 years ago.
I was gonna say you graduated college a year ago or 6 months ago, I guess. So, right?
I graduated almost a year ago.
A year ago.
May
Okay.
this year. Um,
I don't know
yeah,
what
and
year it
then I
is or what
also
time it is.
combined our engagement announcement and my
Yeah,
graduation
for one
announcement into
post.
one post. Yeah. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that. And I think there's like a weird hangover left from high school and like the relationships that I had created and all of these people who follow me online. And it's like, I don't know any of you people, and I really don't
Mhm.
feel comfortable sharing anything because I don't know you. Like, this is
Right.
very weird. So I don't know. There's a reason, but it doesn't matter. I deleted my entire Facebook and only ended up adding like 20 people that I
Mhm.
actually would be comfortable having a full conversation with.
Yeah.
And so I'm much more interested in posting on Facebook, which feels weird to say at my age. But yeah, Instagram is functionally useless to me. But I think that I would be open to posting on, whatever platform, just for me, just because I
Mhm.
think it's fun. and just to have something like to show you or something.
Mhm.
Or my mother, like my mom also lives about the same distance that you do from me.
Right.
And so she wouldn't, get to see as often as she would like. So I think that it would be fun to post some, me dancing with the baby, or
Yeah.
like finally got her laid down, or,
Yeah.
like do one of those January, February, like months of the year things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like something like that would be fun. But I don't think that I would ever intentionally amass a large following
Yeah.
for the purpose of like family vlogging or family content, mommy blogging.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would ever intentionally do that, but in part just because social media is not really my bread and butter. But oddly enough, I do like functionally have a degree in social
Mhm.
media, and it in some ways takes the fun out of it for me, which I think is a big reason that I just don't care to post on
Yeah.
there. But I
You
feel
like
like if
doing it for
I,
like a company or organization, not necessarily your own
yeah, and true, like I don't even like doing
doing it
social
with.
media anymore.
Yeah.
I do it a little bit for my job, but I mostly just write the copy for posts now, and somebody else designs it because I can't be bothered. Um, so I don't know. I think that yeah, if it was me, I would be cautious, but probably not as cautious as I probably should, if that makes sense. Like
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm sure I will post on their birthday.
Yeah.
I will probably use their first name, and then by default, you can probably figure out their last name.
Yeah. Same.
I would not intentionally post where they go to school, or our address or anything like that. And I personally don't think I would post about their bad days. But I think
If
that
anything,
that's,
I think it's different between posting about their bad days versus your feelings and reaction to their bad
yes,
days.
yes.
Like
No,
it's
I
still
can
about you,
totally
it's
see
not about
myself.
them.
Yeah, I can totally see myself like reacting to a bad day.
Mhm.
But I don't think, and part of that would be to protect myself as well as them, because I just don't want to hear it from everybody.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't care what everybody's opinions are. I think that I handled it, as best as I could. And I really don't want feedback from literally everybody on the internet.
Right.
So yeah, I think that I would be cautious, but probably not super private.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your feelings about that?
Well, I'm kind of like you in the same way of like the only people on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat even that I have are like people I'm legitimately friends with. Like I think I have less than 40 people on everything or something like that. So if I was to post stuff like that, it would just be to the people that I would anyway, like that I know that I'd be
Mhm.
comfortable with. But I don't know. I just feel like, to be realistic, I would never put myself in a position where I'd be like a content creator on like TikTok and stuff like that, just because I love watching it. I love
Mhm.
it. I spend a ton of time watching it. I just don't think of myself as being like good, that I would like make good content like that. But
Sure.
hypothetically, my feelings about it is I I don't know why, but I feel like there's a big difference between posting content of like infants and toddlers versus like kids. I
Mhm.
think posting, like, I would feel way more comfortable posting stuff of my baby or like, a toddler walking and doing silly little stuff like that rather than my kids who are actively, not that you're not doing this when you're your whole life, but as a baby and toddler, you're kind of just existing more than when you're in a point where you're like figuring out what you like and
Yeah.
what you don't like and going through phases of different things. Like I don't necessarily think that needs to be. And I think that just comes down to myself. When I think about myself as a baby or toddler, I'm like, I don't care if people see that. But when I'm 6 or 7 and older and I'm going through phases of trying this or liking this or dressing this way, or like I don't necessarily like the idea of people saying that, or anyone at like when I go to school, like people I went to school with seeing that.
Yeah.
So I think of it more as, or even if I was going to post something when they were older and like, had their own opinions forming and going through all that phase of things, I think I'd feel more comfortable with just posting, photos or videos that aren't that like deep. I feel like when I feel inherently more protective of shielding my kids' feelings and opinions and emotions about things rather than just like them, like the physical appearance of them.
Sure.
Like I'd be more comfortable with their just, yeah, like I said, being photos or something specific happening in the situation, or them like eating or, something like that, rather than them like talking
Yeah.
about things they feel or believe in, or I don't know. I feel much more protective of them, their personality and their thoughts and feelings, rather than just like their face being cute on
Yeah.
something. So
Sure.
that's like a big difference to me. So yeah, I'd feel way more comfortable posting content of them as like babies and toddlers rather than kids doing something that's actually somewhat of a reflection of who they are as a person. Because I don't think I could deal with any criticism of that, and I would not want to open up any way for them to see any kind of criticism of the person that they're becoming through seeing comments or anything like that ever. Like I wouldn't, I'd have strong opinions about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that being said, I'm definitely going to be posting cute stuff of like my baby and toddler to all my family. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I would never like post stuff on TikTok. And if people I just don't see myself ever becoming some kind of person that people would like follow, you know what I mean? Like having a big following. But I wouldn't say that like I have strong feelings of not doing that. I love watching it so much that I could do that, but I don't know. So yeah, not really super strong feelings either way, but just feeling more protective of my child's feelings and emotions about things rather than just the image of them existing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that.
Because I would be mortified of some of the things that I said or like thought about the world or something when I was like 6 or 7 or whatever. I would not want anyone to see that. Not even, and that kind of stuff actually goes deeper. That kind of stuff I wouldn't even post with like on my Facebook with my friends and family. Like I don't know. And I'm trying to think of an example of what would reflect that. Or I think if my kid did some kind of like in school, some kind of art project or like wrote a story or something that had some kind of reflection of actually something that they were really feeling or experiencing, I wouldn't like post that. Because I think I see sometimes that too. People will post pictures of like a poem that kids wrote in school that is, I mean, sometimes if it's just silly and funny, like I understand that, but something that really shows how they're feeling upset about something or embarrassed or like getting bullied or something, like I would never post that kind of information publicly for other people to see, because I feel like that is definitely something that any person, including a child, deserves to have privacy about, and not necessarily like they're writing it for themselves, and that doesn't need to be seen by other people.
Well,
So
and I
that's
think
something that I would be wary about posting.
I think there's value in keeping some of those things for yourself. And I don't know if this is like a me thing, but even when we got engaged, I did not turn around and post about it. I waited until like after I had graduated, which that was pretty close together, but I did not tell people right away, because I think that there's so much value in just having something for you. And, I don't always, some of the things that I really like, I don't necessarily share with other people. Like songs that are really meaningful to me, or like a movie or a show that I found like really, really deeply meaningful, I don't always suggest those things to other people because it's almost like,
It's like, that's my, and yeah,
that's for me. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's not like a show or a song was written just for me, but it's sort of like my experience with this is my own, completely
Mhm.
my own. And it's not painted or seen through the lens of anybody else's experience with it. And I also don't have to explain it to anybody.
Mhm.
And so I feel that way with what you were saying about a kid's art or performance or poetry, something that they've produced. It's almost like just keeping that as a mom for you, or, you know, they drew a picture for you. And it's kind of just like, you can just have that. You can just
Mhm.
have it for you and not have that be something that everybody gets to enjoy. It's like your
Mhm.
secret little treasure and you just get to keep it. And I think that there's a lot of value in being able to do that. And so
Yeah.
I also would be very hesitant to post, because you're right. If it's something silly, it's something silly, whatever.
Yeah,
But if
kids
they
do
really,
funny things and adorable
yeah,
things. Like, it's not
yeah,
that deep always.
right. But sometimes, you know, or if they wrote something about you that is very like from the heart, you know, about like maybe for Mother's Day at their school, they did like a poem about their mom.
Mhm.
And it like actually is really sweet and like means a lot to you. You don't have to post it. You know, you can
Mm-mm.
keep that just for you because that was so sweet of them to do, that
It's
that's
like
just kind of
authentic.
between you. Yeah, that's just
Doesn't
kind of
seem as
between me and
authentic
you.
if you're showing people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's an interesting part of that. I hadn't considered so much like,
Protecting their soul
yeah.
almost.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like how I think about it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just such a
because
that's just such a sensitive personal thing. And that has a lot to
yeah.
do with my just the kind of person that I am myself, of like wanting, like, I crave so much having privacy and only having people that I really like trust,
Hmm.
know a lot of things, and all that. So it's like I would not want to create a space where my kid is growing up with like not developing a sense of, okay, I can choose that I
Hmm.
want people to see this or don't or whatever. But when you're talking about keeping something just for yourself, this is kind of a tangent too, but that's how I feel so strongly about being pregnant and giving birth. And like
Hmm.
when you have a newborn infant, like
Yep.
that is so much of it. I am not going to be the one having my baby's 2 weeks old. Everyone come over.
Mm-mm. No,
Uncle
me neither.
Gary, come over. All my like, no, like that's something that I will cherish for the rest of my life. This
Hmm.
little time. And like, not saying it's going to be, not saying as like perfect. It's going to be, like
No.
a movie. No, it's going to be like hard. That's not what
Yeah.
I mean. It's just something that doesn't need to, other people don't need to be like included in that
Yeah.
time, that bubble of time. Like that
Yeah.
can just be for me and my family, and
Hmm.
then whatever, you can see more of family and stuff when you get older. But I feel that is mine about the idea of like having a newborn baby and
Yeah.
like being very pregnant and stuff. That's for me. I'm not, and even sharing that, like I don't, not that there's necessarily, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with this, but personally, like, I don't think I'm going to be posting a lot of photos of my newborn baby.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? And like that, and if for a lot of people, I understand you totally would want to share that with everyone, but that's a time that it's like, I don't want to, I don't know. It's not like I don't want anyone to know, but I don't want anyone, I don't need to know anyone's reaction to anything that's happening right now.
Yeah.
This is like
Yeah.
private and this is mine. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that when it's so meaningful, so deeply meaningful to you, I am consistently disappointed by other people and their reaction to things.
Sure.
And that's not like, I don't mean that in a mean way at all. It's just an honest thing.
Sometimes
And
it makes something that you were
yeah,
happy about shitty. So yeah.
yeah. And so like, I think, you know, sharing that time, I would feel the same way about, because it's like, I made this. It's like the first time it's like not in my body. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're dealing with a lot of feelings about that are really complicated. about it's, no longer part of you, and now it's here, and you
Yeah.
have like all these different responsibilities.
It's a lot going on in that time, I'm sure.
Yeah. But in the same token, like you're finally like you're through, if birth was like a scary thing for you, then it's like you're finally through it, like you're done with pregnancy, you birthed this kid out, now here you go, like here's your reward, and it's like sacred and
Sacred. That's a
untainted by
great
anybody
word.
else. Yeah. And I think sharing that and having people be like, oh, she's so cute, or like, go mama, or whatever, is like I didn't ask
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to say that. And like I might take those pictures, but I'm not putting them anywhere.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
just for me to like jog my memory when I want to relive this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or even post for other people later on. But
sure.
kind of like what you were saying with like how later on you posted engagement photos of like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
captured this stuff happening, and it's not like no one can ever be a part of that time period, but it's like while it's happening
Yeah.
is different than later on.
Right. Yeah.
But
I hope that you get that with your wedding.
thank you.
Because
Yeah,
I
that's kind of
wish,
the goal.
yeah, that's the one thing that I wish was different about our wedding. But
Yeah, is having it. I really like the word sacred. I like the way
mhm.
you've used that. That resonates with me a lot. That's kind of how I, yeah, have envisioned like why we're having such a tiny wedding in a non-traditional space, is to kind of have that person, just very personal thing
Yeah,
of not
yeah,
needing other
absolutely.
people. I can't imagine being comfortable and like actually feeling good about exchanging vows when I'm like my second cousin or whatever out there is just like looking at me and like I don't know that, you know what I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
like it just seems like it wouldn't, I don't know, that's just a performance for other people,
Yeah,
um rather than for me. But like that's just how I kind of feel about it. I know that's not everyone's experience, but
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the same vein, like I think that we'll probably exchange vows privately
sure.
before,
And then
and
yeah.
then do like a generic kind of thing in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of thing that like I don't want that recorded. Like you can take one
Yeah.
picture of like it happening. I don't want anyone to know what we said.
Yeah.
That's between me and you. Like we keep whatever paper this was written on for each
Sure.
other. Like no one else ever gets that.
Hmm.
It's just you and me
I
that
love
get that.
that.
And I think that that's like I think how we're going to capture that feeling at our wedding, which is not going to be gigantic, but it'll be probably 100 or so people.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that that's important. And I think that there's nothing wrong with doing that in many contexts, engagements, weddings, kids. I think that's completely valid.
I wish that more people felt like they had, not felt like, I wish more people knew that they had a right to create that boundary.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's so many people who feel like they owe it to other people to come over and visit their newborn baby, or they owe it to
Mm-hmm.
people to have a huge thing that they don't want to do so that it can make other people happy. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
wish more people felt like it's okay for me to draw this boundary and have this sacred thing for myself, and
Mm-hmm.
not have to look back and regret like I wish I would have not had all those people come over when I was still processing having a baby,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. I want that. I think that should be more normalized.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Because you having a baby is not a community event.
Right.
I mean, in some ways, I guess it is. It does impact people, but it's not
Yeah.
their thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's another thing that I actually really like watching, like TikToks of, or like any social medias, is that kind of stuff. Not only people posting their kids, but mothers talking about those kind of experiences that happen
Yeah.
too. And that helps people not feel as alone, is, how to deal with when this happens, or, situations of maybe in-laws or extended family or people in your family making comments about this, and more of like,
Mhm.
this is how I handle that. And I think that gives people a lot more confidence to be able to say, okay, like this happens to other people and
Mhm.
they shut it down like that, or they do whatever, so I can do that too. I think
Yeah.
that's probably a super helpful thing. Of that's not necessarily sharing your kids on social media, but sharing your experience of being a parent
Right.
can
Yeah.
also open yourself up to tons of helpful,
Mhm.
you're not alone, this happens to
Right.
me too, you're okay to say, like, no, my kid doesn't have to fucking give you a hug, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like stuff like that, or how to deal with comments about judgy whoever about the way you're parenting your baby. Bless you.
Thank you.
So I feel like that's another thing that I personally feel I will really like will be really helpful
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
me, is
definitely.
more of like being a mother and relating to other people who are mothers of going through the same stuff, rather than
Yeah.
just, this is my kid, this is your kid. Like,
Right. Yeah. Well, I do find that very valuable, the people that post like pregnancy stuff, because
mhm,
that's something that is kind of scary to me.
yeah, if it's very foreign, if you've
Yeah.
never given birth, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't even know how to totally comprehend that.
Yeah. So that pregnancy, and then also postpartum, like those first couple of months to, weeks to months, and talking about sometimes it's just like products that work for you, but also like,
Yeah,
holy crap, I did not expect that this was going to happen to my body after I gave birth, but now
like no
like
one
now,
ever told me that that was going to
yeah,
happen. Yeah,
yeah, and now you can be prepared for that.
yeah,
And that's always my biggest issue. I personally have like some medical phobia type stuff going on. Um, Nothing crazy extreme, but I am always much more calm when I know exactly what to expect.
hmm,
And I know some people are like, don't even tell me, I don't even want to know, like just do what you need to do and get out of there.
that's kind of
I
how
am,
I how I
yeah,
am.
I'm the complete opposite. I do not want any questions about what's happening. And so having all of this information about here's what the doctor's visits look like before, and then also here's what actually giving birth looks like, and here's what postpartum looks like. There's just no question. I mean, there's a million questions left in my mind, but like it reduces the amount of questions and the amount of like
Or it gives you an
mystical
insight to
fog.
what questions you want to ask, even.
Right. Yeah. I just think like clearing that stuff up, because a lot of people are just like, it's magical and it is going to be painful but great.
Yeah,
It's like, that's not very helpful.
yeah,
And like, I had no idea, which this is stupid, but I had no idea that after you give birth, like you don't go back to having, not that I have a flat stomach, but like you don't basically go back to having a flat stomach again.
yeah, in like a day.
Yeah, like you kind of still look pregnant.
For a
I did
while,
not,
yeah,
yeah, I did not know that. You probably
yeah,
did from your education, but like I didn't know that. I was just kind of like, well, the baby's gone. Like it's probably back to normal mostly.
yeah,
Obviously, people gain weight, like that's fine, but
yeah.
probably mostly back to normal, right? No, no, that's
Not
dumb.
really.
And nobody tells you that.
Yeah,
And that's not what's portrayed in media, because people give birth and then they're
they're
back to their
glowing.
like little tiny skinny selves and they're like
Yeah,
holding their child. And that's just not how it is at all. And I think that that's another benefit of showing, sharing that part of your life on social media, is like giving other people an insight into the real things that are happening or going to happen.
yeah. And it almost feels like permission. Like it almost feels like permission to be like, it's like you don't have to feel like this whole thing is just beautiful and perfect and like you can't
Yeah.
complain about it. Like I'm almost telling you, like, it sucks. Like you have permission to
Yeah.
be frustrated about it and not make it all like romanticized. But I also, when you're talking about doctor's visits and stuff like that, I think that some of that content that I consume as well really I think empowers people to know how to advocate for themselves, because people can also share their experiences of kind of like what you were saying about having questions of I didn't know that they were going to do this, and it just happened, and this is what happened to me. So like giving birth with something, so then you're able to maybe hear their experience and then advocate for like, okay, so I know about this thing now, and my choice is for this to happen, kind of thing. So having more information about what to expect can help you almost form, I don't know, your own opinions about like what you want to ask, or advocating like, this person had this experience and I want to make sure that I don't have that. So from, I don't know, I'm speaking in a lot of like not concrete examples, but just up here, but I feel like the point's getting across of feeling more comfortable to know what you want to be clear about, what you want to advocate of, this is what I want to happen, as much as you can, obviously. But like I hear people talking about how like doctors or like OBGYN visits towards close to when they're about to have the kid are like 5 minutes, and they're like, ask the questions you want to have. A lot of times it comes in and it's a big rush of like, okay, see baby's heartbeat's there, okay, we're good to go. Like people are like, and I had never heard of that, and then like all the comments were like, oh my gosh, this happens to me too. We literally spend an hour getting there and waiting in the waiting room, and then the appointment's 5 minutes. Like, so even that I feel like is a thing where you can be aware if that's going to happen and prepare yourself for it. I guess is another thing of, when you're talking about wanting to know exactly what's going to happen, it can prepare you a lot for like what you should kind of expect, even though everyone's experience is completely different. But because there's a lot of stuff about giving birth and having an infant and all that I never knew. You see it on TikTok and it's like, why is no one talking about the fact that happens?
Right.
So that's fun too. Do you have any other not even strong opinions, any other opinions or little like random this or that questions?
No,
I don't know if it makes sense.
I think I got everything out that I wanted to say. I just think, I don't know. I guess like my final thoughts on it are just that it's a judgment call for everybody, and there's no judgment here. It's just a discussion. But I think that 99% of people are just genuinely doing the best that they can and making the choices that they think are best for their family. And I think that, like you said at the beginning, if your kid is like clothed and happy and okay,
warm and say, they're
right. Then like, it's fine. It's not that serious.
2 thumbs up. It's just an interesting thing to think about because of how much social media is like evolving so quickly. It's one of those things where like it is just a new thing to navigate for everyone because it's no one's experienced it before. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about, like think about it for a second rather than just do it because you can do it. If that makes sense. So it's just an interesting to think about. But think about the like in a whatever it is, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The pyramid, like fed, clothes, whatever, things about posting on social media is like up here of like importance. It's just something interesting to see because that's the main thing that made me think about all this was I watch so much content about being a mother and sharing, people sharing their kids and different situations. If this happens to me and blah blah blah, that I just was thinking about it a lot because I love consuming that content. So it's just like, I wonder if on the other end of the spectrum of creating it, like what is that like and what goes along with making those choices of what to share and what not to share. And
absolutely.
I don't know, it's very interesting, but okay. Bye honey.
That's that on that. Bye honey.